Going to call the March 12th Christopher Town Council meeting to order. Before we get into the reflections and the pledge, our engineers are doing some sound checks. We've had some issues with it over the last couple of weeks, so if you see people running in and looking suspicious, it's just our guys. So, and secondly, we do have a large crowd here tonight, and I think a lot of you here for a specific part of the program. If you, as a group, decide to leave prior to the end, I'm going to ask that you move all the way downstairs and outside the building, because if you're on the first floor, on this floor, the sound echoes back through. So with that in mind, as we always do, we take a moment of reflection to think about things going on within our own town, our families, and things like that. And I want to remember two Life Rescue Squad members that passed away over the last week or so. One of them was Marvin Jones, who I believe was a charter member of the Rescue Squad, and Larry Duncan, who was an active member for many years and was a senior member. They both passed away this past week, and so if you would remember their families in your prayers and what they've done for the community. So let's enter into a moment of reflection. Thank you. If you would raise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Vice Mayor Tanya Houghton.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
I do. I would like to table the lease agreement until we have more information about the lease that is under the consent agenda item. Discussion and action by mayor and council, and it was item J. And it's just regarding the information that there was no price value under that. There hasn't been a lot of information regarding the agreement, and I feel like maybe a lot of people in here in the room are possibly coming for that. And please I don't mean to. I just would like to find more information about what the lease entitles and everything else.
Thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that because I don't know anything about it either. Would
We have a
like more
motion and a
information.
second. Madam Clerk?
Councilman Bishop.
Aye.
Councilwoman Bowman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hicks.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hockett.
Nay.
Councilman Jenkins.
Nay.
Councilman Wilson.
Nay.
What do we got here?
Got you.
3-3?
Got you.
Mayor, if I hate to interrupt, but I believe we need to have a public hearing before we can lease public property.
You would.
Okay.
So that may affect your vote.
So I will vote with a nay, and that we will not discuss it under citizens' discussion by mayor and council.
You'll vote yes.
Yeah, you, other way.
You gotta vote the other way.
I vote that we're not going to do it tonight. Take it at that. So we will set a public hearing, and Randy, I'm going to ask if you will set that public hearing next meeting.
You could discuss it without having a public hearing.
We are going to discuss it. They're going to make a presentation on it at that point. Oh, yeah. No,
we
no,
didn't
no.
vote that part off.
No, we're not going to get down to the voting part of it tonight, but we're going to listen to it.
Put it off the agenda.
Oh, no. Okay. Thank you. Under public hearings, we have an issuance of a Virginia Resource Authority, VRA bond for improvement projects at the wastewater treatment plant. If I'm correct, that is for repairs. Val, are you going to tell us about that one?
Real quickly, it was advertised in the paper that tonight is public hearing for any comments from the public regarding the town taking out a loan for up to $15.5 million. It's a VRA loan, which is a Virginia Resource Authority. It's a low interest loan of about 0.5%. A portion of that loan, $450,000, is eligible for being forgiven. And the loan is to do a lot of improvements at the wastewater treatment plant. I think on our cover sheet, we had kind of a list of those. Construction of a new building to house 2 new centrifuges and rotary drum thickener for efficient biosolids dewatering and crucial upgrades to the main electrical plant, replacement of 2 influent Archimede screw pumps, and replacement of both aerated grit and bar screen equipment. So it's a pretty big project, and this is the opportunity for citizens to comment about council approving such a debt.
Anyone else here to address this issue? Hearing no one, I will close that portion of the public hearing. The next is a rezoning request by Radford Development of Virginia LLC, property owner, and High Tech Collision LLC, applicant, to rezone approximately 2.265 acres of property located on the east side of the intersection of Badger Street Northwest and Elk Drive Northwest. Tax parcel is 525A-44A, from B3 General Business to I1 Limited Industrial. The property is designated as residential in the future land use map, the 2013 Christopher Comprehensive Plan. Is there anyone here to address this issue?
Hey, good evening, members of council. I'm Trevor Kimsey, Director of Engineering with Foresight Design Services. I'm here on behalf of my client, Mr. Myers, owner of High Tech Collision, who's making the application. And I believe you've got everything you have in the packet, and it's a simple, straightforward application. So I'm going to take this as a answer questions only approach. Happy to do so if you have any.
Staff comments?
Recommended. Just simply public hearing.
Okay.
So this would be a new building that's proposed adjacent to the existing building on Badger Street. So they would be moving from their existing building to a larger vacant property just north of their existing property.
Okay. Any comments or questions, council? No. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll close that portion, and this is a conditional use permit request by Radford Development of Virginia LLC, property owner, and High Tech Collision LLC, applicant, to allow for automobile and truck recreation vehicle assembling, painting, upholstering, repairing, rebuilding, and reconditioning body or fender work, including a commercial garage, towing service, or automobile body shop on approximately 2.265 acres, property located on the east side intersection Badger Street Northwest, Elk Drive Northwest, tax parcel 525-A-44A, in I-1 Limited Residential, Limited Industrial. Property is designated residential on the future land use map, the 2013 Comprehensive Plan. Anyone here to address that? You didn't go anywhere, did you, Trevor?
No, I didn't get very far. Same person, same project, same thing. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but
Any comments? Ma'am,
Can I say something?
you have a question?
Yes.
Address it to Trevor.
So it seems like you're just, what he says, just rebuilding something on the side of the building, but as far as like the towing service, are you required to keep those, cars with like, is there a special time that we wait for them to have like all the requirements to have the tags and things like that ready and stuff like that, or not at all?
So there were conditions that were recommended. Based on the existing location that Mr. Myers is in, had received previous conditional use permits. And so there were some, so based on those conditions and then through planning commission discussion, they did recommend, they did recommend several conditions, which does govern the timeframe that is on the rezoning. Let me get to the conditional use permit here real quick.
And while he's pulling that up, just to clarify, it is a whole new separate build, separate project. It's not attached. It just happens to be the adjacent parcel. So they would literally build
across
all
the
new
street.
and move out of into the whole new facility. A much nicer, larger facility for his operation.
And I do believe there were stipulations about how long a vehicle to be held pending repairs. I read that somewhere in the packet.
Yes, sir. Condition number 11 reads that there will be no storage of vehicles upon the premises except for vehicles left for repair. All vehicles left for repair are to be kept on premises and not within any public right-of-way or adjacent property. All vehicles on the property are to have a state inspection decal that is either valid or dated within 90 days of its expiration. And then also, condition number 5 does govern that a maximum of 20 inoperable vehicles will be stored on-site within the fenced-in storage area awaiting repair. And then also, condition number 4 is applicable here as well. Storage of vehicles awaiting repair shall not exceed 20 days.
So that is vehicles for repair and vehicles that have been towed in from a wreck, total of 20.
So if they're being stored for repair, then it may exceed 20, but they could not have 20 vehicles that are inoperable, that are missing valid decals, or are missing a tire or something along those lines that would make them inoperable. So those would not, inoperable vehicles could not exceed 20 vehicles.
And then there's the possible of 10 for repair, or 10 days for repair?
Right, there would be that 20 days for repair.
Okay, all right. Any other comments or questions? Thank you, Trevor.
Thank you.
I'm going to close the public hearings. I'm sorry, Brian.
I'm Brian Rice from 2440 Hitching Post Drive, and I'm an adjacent property owner. And we've known that Mike's been out of room for a long time. He's needing more space. And I think it'd be beneficial to the town to approve this so that he could keep his business in town. I think anybody that's ever hit a deer or had a fender bender and needed some reputable person to work on their vehicle, it's hard to find. And Mike's got a great business, and we hope he'll be able to stay here in town. I think it'd be a great opportunity for the town.
Thank you, Brian.
All right, y'all. I'm Michael Myers. I'm the owner of High Tech Collision. I know there was some concerns with the business growing. I do have a productive business. We do move a lot of cars. I don't know how many members got the opportunity to go up today and drive by the facility and see what we had outside. I try to keep my shop very clean, keep the neighbors happy. This is an opportunity for growth, for employment. With that facility, I'll be hiring 20 to 25 more people, so that will help with employment. And I really want to try to get started on this project as soon as possible. It is a lengthy build, so I would like to see if there's an opportunity y'all could vote on this tonight.
I think we have, in the past, in the last several meetings, we have declined to do that. And if council wants to vote on it, I can take a motion. Hearing no motion, it'll be 2 weeks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Under the consent agenda, we have the approval of the minutes from February 27th and March 4th work session. Have scheduled a public hearing on April the 23rd. Conditional use permit request by Howard M. Thornton Jr. and Gail W. Thornton, property owners, and PCKK Partners LLC applicant, to allow a contractor storage equipment yard located at 520 and 540 Depot Street, tax parcel 497-A-40, in a B3 general business, property designated downtown market, downtown mixed use of the future land use map of town of Christiansburg. We also have scheduled a public hearing on April 23rd, rezoning request by Johnny C. Martin Jr. and Amelia F. Martin, property owners, for applications and applicants to rezone property located at 3345 Roanoke Street and a portion of property located at 3301 Roanoke Street, all the tax parcel 502-9-6 and a portion of tax parcel 502-95C. From A agriculture to B3 general business. This property is designated as residential in the future land use map 2013 comprehensive plan. The next is to schedule a public hearing on the above process.
So move.
Get a motion and a second. Any discussions? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Bishop. Councilwoman Bowman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hicks.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hockett.
Aye.
Councilman Jenkins.
Aye.
Councilman Wilson.
Aye.
Thank you. Under introductions and presentations, we have Keith Holt, the Executive Director of the Virginia Tech Montgomery County Executive Airport, to present on airport operations. And I would also like to recognize our town representative, N.L. Bishop, who we appointed to that board a couple of years ago. N.L., thank you for coming.
Thank you much, Mr. Mayor and members of council and staff. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. My name is Keith Holt. I am the Executive Director of the Virginia Tech Montgomery Regional Airport. So the Airport Authority, we were established in 2001 by the General Assembly as a regional government entity to run and operate the airport. So we are comprised of the town of Christiansburg, town of Blacksburg, Montgomery County, and Virginia Tech. So I could honestly go into a very long history about the airport. It dates back to 1930, has a tremendous history, but that's not really truly the reason why I'm here today. So want to give you a little bit of background information about the airport. We comprised of 255 acres in the town of Blacksburg. We recently completed a runway extension to 5,500 feet and updated our runway lighting to new LED lighting. So the runway extension completion, that was completed in 2020. As I mentioned, it took the runway to 5,500 feet. Roughly before the extension, it was 4,500 feet. We did a lot of upgrades to the runway safety areas, did some land acquisition. We really had it broken up into 3 major phases. The total project was grant funded, 98%, with a combination of federal and state grants. It did take us a long time to complete. It was not a simple project. So here's some pictures of the airport back in 2003 and then today in 2023. You'll see back in 2003 there was actually an old crosswind runway, of which that the portion of that old runway down on the left is actually now part of the National Weather Service's weather inflation area, where they launch a weather balloon twice a day from that area of the airfield. You can see the extension of which that in the 2023 picture really took place on the left-hand side of that picture. Kind of showing a little bit more of the progress of the project. 2015 was still a lot of planning, a little bit of some of the road work of which that was involved, mostly involving Southgate Drive. However, 2017 you can see that we started to really make some dirt move, turn some dirt. You'll see as we're going into 2019, still a lot of the same progress with dirt movement. And then 2020, you can begin to see the shaping of the actual extended portion of the runway take hold. And then so that would be the completion of the runway. So what does 1,000 feet really get an airport? Quite honestly and truthfully, so traffic increased 25% with the completion of the runway project. Now, shockingly, also, our fuel sales nearly doubled since we opened that new runway project. And quite simply, the reason being is fuel equals weight to an aircraft, and a heavier aircraft requires more runway to take off. So the addition of that additional 1,000 feet allowed the aircraft, which many of which that were already visiting our airport anyhow, to be able to take on more fuel with us. And so our fuel sales went from about 116,000 gallons per year to 220,000 gallons per year. So almost doubled our fuel sales. So why do people choose to fly in and out of the Virginia Tech Montgomery Executive Airport? First and foremost, we support economic development. Airports and economic development go hand in hand so well together. With the extension of the runway to 5,500 feet, the true statistic is 72% of the business jets operating today can operate in and out of our airport. A better way to phrase that is every Fortune 500 company operating in the United States, of which that has a corporate jet, has at least one jet of which that can operate to and from our airport. Now, not all of our companies of which that we see in our region are Fortune 500 companies. I've been very surprised at the variety of different companies of which that we see fly in and out of our airport, some of which that I would have never anticipated or expected of which that would have an airplane. The one on the bottom left-hand corner actually probably took me by surprise the most. That was Chicken Salad Chick. I truthfully had no idea that they had an airplane. The picture that you see on the right was a very recent economic development for a company in the Falling Branch area, and the picture that you see in the upper left-hand corner is Corning's aircraft. For years, Corning, after they got a larger aircraft, was flying in and out of Roanoke. With the extension of our runway, they have now been able to return back to and fly out of the Virginia Tech Montgomery Executive Airport. Emergency services and medical flights. Oftentimes one of those things is overlooked or not considered with regards to the benefits of an airport. Sadly and unfortunately, we are also an overflow or an additional landing site for the Carilion helipad. If there's already one helicopter sitting on the pad at the hospital, the second helicopter will come to the airport. 911 has the ability to open my gate mechanically, so even if we're not staffed and we're not there, they can still get the ambulance out to the helicopter. So that has happened. There's a National Weather Service aircraft on the upper right-hand corner. A Coast Guard helicopter down in the bottom right-hand corner. And right now this week, I've actually had an aircraft of which that is with the National Forest Service, of which that is going to be positioned here for about the next 60 days, doing some training, but is also positioned here post-wise in the event of a forest fire. We've also, since the extension of the runway, we've been able to accommodate some of the sports charter teams, specifically charter flights of which that have less than 30 seats. That has been the men's and women's basketball team for Virginia Tech, as well as some of the soccer teams, and I even have seen the wrestling team fly out of the airport. Coach Mike Young had a great quote one evening on Tech Talk Live, and essentially what they asked him is, what was it like flying out of Blacksburg versus having to go to Roanoke? And his comment was spot on the mark. He said, there's nothing wrong with going to Roanoke, but unloading the plane, loading the bus, and driving back the 30 to 40 minutes to Blacksburg is tough. It's chilly around midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, and so this has been very helpful. Most of our kids live just a few minutes away from the Blacksburg airport. It's awfully convenient for them and gets them home a little bit earlier. So that's one of those benefits of which that we see of an airport is based on convenience, but also based on transportation, getting people to and from where they need to go. This is a picture of a typical Virginia Tech football game, just to show you a little bit of the breadth of how much air traffic that we can see for a large community event such as home football games. So what are some of the economic impact numbers of an airport? These numbers right here that I have on this slide date back to 2019. The state is going to be updating these numbers, and I'm really looking forward to when they do, because the economic impact that the Virginia Tech Montgomery Executive Airport generates $10.5 million in economic activity. That was pre-runway extension. So I'm really looking forward to the new updated report, of which that will better reflect post-runway extension. There are 66 public use airports in the state of Virginia. It's also really important to point out that the taxes on aviation fuel, both federally and at the state level, is the money of which that we utilize through our grant program system in order to help refund or to accomplish our grant-funded projects, such as our runway project. So it's the aviation fuels tax of which that funds the aviation grant projects. What are a few things for us in the future? We are exploring additional ramp space and being able to have look at additional ways to expand the ramp. I'm going to also highlight aircraft hangars. We continue to have a demand for aircraft hangars, but also most importantly, because we just recently completed that runway extension, we accomplished most everything of which that was on our old master plan. So we are right now in the beginning phases of our new master plan. And so that's going to look out for the next 10, 15 to 20 years as to what the needs are for the airport, looking at our forecast models and our data in order to, very similar to a comprehensive plan for a locality. We will be pulling together our master plan. A very interesting thing just happened back in February. We had the first fully electric aircraft land, take off, and charge at the airport. So about just shy of a year ago, we worked with a company in order to install an electric aircraft charger. And that was, the company's name is Beta Electronics, or I'm sorry, Beta Technologies. They're out of Vermont. And so they were flying from Georgia back up to Vermont. They had stopped in the Tri-Cities area. They were headed up to Shenandoah to do an event with an aviation company up in Shenandoah. They stopped off. They were at about 35% battery life when they stopped, charged for just under an hour, and were able to leave with 100%. So that was the first fully electric aircraft of which that landed, recharged, and took off from the airport. So that was an exciting event, something of which that sort of getting at the point of aviation is always changing. You know, it's been 115 years since we first learned to fly. It's always changing. This is one of those new emerging markets of which that we are going to see. But we as an airport, we're ready to capture into some of that as that market grows. And with that, I thank you very much for your time. I'm certainly able to take any questions, but more importantly, I invite you all out to the airport. At any time, feel free to work with Randy or contact myself directly. I would be happy to give you a tour of the airport, show you around. With that amount of acreage, it doesn't always reflect very well on pictures. Sometimes you do just have to see it for yourselves. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it and be happy to answer any questions.
Are there landing fees?
Yes.
For planes coming in?
There are, and our landing fees are based on the size of the airplane. We actually base our landing fees on the weight of an airplane with about 5 different classes of landing fee. Now, we do have where we will waive some of those fees in the event if you purchase a certain amount of fuel. So it's either purchase of the fuel or providing of the fee, one or the other. And then we have additional fees on top of that for overnight stays, and then some fees for use of various services. We have what's called a ground power unit, which is a unit of which that can hook up to an airplane in order to provide electronic to power up the avionics and the electronics on an aircraft or even do an engine start. We charge an additional fee for that. We also have a baggage belt in order to load the baggage into some of the larger airplanes. We charge an additional fee for that. Yes, sir.
I have several questions. Is this airport, is this an international airport? Yeah, not yet, right?
No, we are not international. However, recently I did have an aircraft of which that, I've had several recently of which that were international flights. If an airplane clears at a port of entry as its first stop into the United States, once they have cleared into the United States, then they can travel to any of the other airports in the United States without once again having to clear customs. That's why we actually I had recently an airplane from Spain, and then wasn't that long ago I had the president of Botswana, of which his aircraft flew to the airport.
And another question would be, will you guys think that you will ever be self-funded?
Self-sustaining?
Yeah.
So certainly self-sustaining is a complete goal. So right now, of my budget, roughly 14% comes from the local jurisdictions of my budget. I have not actually truthfully gone back to see where that number, how that has come as far as a percentage before in the past. But at a 14% number, we are getting there. Now, we do still have some debt service of which that we are paying down from the runway extension and the hangar project, of which that, you know how business works. Once you start to pay down that debt, that does indeed tend to help the bottom line. There will always, there is the public benefit of an airport, of which that even as airports become self-sustaining, there is still always a need to work closely with your local governments and communities. I'm familiar with a lot of airports of which that have their local governments of which that continue to be a fiscal agent for their airport authorities. I even am aware of a few airports of which that use the local community's legal services as their legal team, of which that kind of in-kind type of contributions.
Another one would be, since it is a national airport and stuff, do you ever see it carrying normal passengers for passenger
airline flights? So the airline market is extremely tricky. So in order to entice an airline to fly from any airport, let alone an airport of which, like ours, of which that doesn't presently have airline service, you have to be able to make the business case and business justification. Otherwise, they're not even going to begin to listen to you. So from our perspective, and then on top of that, once you begin to have airline service, you incorporate in a whole bunch of additional federal requirements and federal rules as far as spacing, as far as security areas, as far as TSA baggage and screening and things of that nature, of which that gets very costly. So I would not ever completely dismiss the premises, because right now one airport in the state of Virginia that is looking at this is Manassas. And Manassas is looking at going from a general aviation airport to a commercial service airport. So indeed it is possible, but there's a lot more stars that have to align. There's a lot more business justifications that would have to be made. The community would have to continue to be able to grow in such a fashion to be able to support that business sense. Speaking truthfully, I have a feeling it would be very difficult to look on the horizon and say, yeah, that could happen in the next 5 years. Maybe 10, maybe 15, more likely a little bit past that, before we grow to that point to where the feasibility of driving to Roanoke or Charlotte are completely out of the question for us. And truthfully, that's where our competition in that market would be.
Just as a comparison, Keith, I think you've got 5,500 feet of runway. What does Roanoke have?
So their longest runway is 7,000. NL, do you remember 7,200, 7,000, something of that nature? I think it's 7,200, yes, sir.
Okay.
What's it gonna take for you guys to get there? I know money probably, but is that very hard to reach with funded government grants or things like that?
Yeah, grant funding through the variety of sources has been very helpful to the airport over the years. Now, as we look at projects becoming more costly and government funding becoming, at times, a little bit more constrained, there are some really good projects of which that I have that I feel that I very much make a very good case to the FAA, of which that it should be funded. And unfortunately, right now, it's not either scoring high enough or there's too many other priorities ahead of us to get funded. So grant funding will continue to be a very strong source of funds for the airports in order to be able to accomplish projects. And I see that continuing well into the future. That will help us get there.
Do you have the available land to be able to do that currently?
At our current acreage, in order to get to, for example, 7,000 feet of runway, no, I would have to do some additional land acquisition.
Okay.
To do a modest runway extension, we could still, within our land and within the land that we have, be able to do that. As far as redevelopment of additional buildings and spaces, we have, and that is where the master plan really comes into play, is we have that ability to draw that future out and begin to really look at what land we have and where we can truthfully put things.
You have been very helpful today.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other comments or questions? Tim, thanks.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Yanel, thank you for coming. I think I see Brad Stipe speaking in the door back there, who's also a member of that commission. Brad?
I apologize for being late. I guess 15 years on council wasn't enough time to remember what the meeting started. We had an airport meeting this afternoon that concluded at 5. I apologize for being here, but after stepping off of this board, of all the things I was involved with, I want to say this is the one I wanted to stay on because of engineering and the exciting things that are going on. And I want to note that also Dr. Bishop, Christiansburg is the only locality on this board that has 2 residents of Christiansburg on it. And we have closed meetings as you do, and I just want to emphasize the importance of this airport in the big picture of soliciting and expanding existing businesses, because we do have those discussions as well. And I do apologize to the board for being late, and to my Dr. Bishop and Mr. Holt, and just want to say thank you for the opportunity to serve on this. And there are big things happening, in our region, and the airport is a critical component of those. And thank you for just a couple minutes. And I do
Thank you.
apologize for being tardy.
Dr. Bishop? Anything?
I think he said it well.
Very good, thank you. Very good.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming.
Next is New River Valley Aquatics Incorporated, H2O Hokies. Head Coach Director Scott Baldwin to present a lease proposal for the portion of town property, Christopher Aquatic Center, 595 Franklin Street, tax parcel 497A 279 for tenant use.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Town Council. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here this evening. Joining me, I want to introduce a few folks. I've got members of my board of directors with us. I've got members of our coaching staff, swimmers, and a handful of parents are spread out, so it's a good problem to have. Which one is this? Tonight, the reason why we're all here tonight is to discuss a ground lease request proposal that we all have submitted to you all. But also, this is my 20th year of coaching swimming and being a part of H2O Aquatics, being that we were a team that was at the very beginning at the Christiansburg Aquatic Center. This is my very first time being in front of you all, so it's an honor to be here tonight, but it also is an opportunity for me to share a little bit more about our program, what it is that we actually do over there. First off, there might be a little confusion. We are New River Valley Aquatics Incorporated. That is our nonprofit 501c3 arm of our organization. That sponsors H2O Aquatics, and that is the USA Swimming arm of what we do. That is what the Olympic team competes under. That's what allows our kids to compete in meets throughout the U.S. and Virginia. And it also gives us the authority to host the events that we do at the Aquatic Center. We currently have 265 families or swimmers on our team. When we moved in 2010, we had 160 kids on our team. So in 14 years, and we managed to, the pandemic, we've almost doubled our numbers in that time period. The services that we offer, obviously we are a competitive swim team, so half of our operations are competitive coaching. The other half is a introduction level part of our program. So we have a lot of kids that come to us that have never tried swimming before. So we have over half of our members that are giving swimming a try, and we provide all of the aquatic instruction, and collectively we reach kids anywhere from 5 years all the way up to 18 years of age. We are a very, a prominent and a primary tenant of the Aquatic Center. We are all very familiar with Virginia Tech's interest in their role that they play. However, the role that we play, we feel we are a very close second, and I'll let our numbers here sort of drive that conversation a little bit. Currently, we host between 6 and 7 events a year out of the Aquatic Center. They vary in size, but primarily what we do is we provide a lot of the volunteer support. In 2023, our program, the 6 or 7 meets that we hosted, generated almost $6 million in economic impact dollars. If you happen to be out and about last weekend, we hosted a meet with 14 and under athletes. I don't think any of them used the airport when they arrived. However, we had 650 out-of-town guests that stayed the entire weekend. They ate in our restaurants. They bought gas and fuel. So that alone, that last weekend alone, generated $1.5 million in economic impact. Back to 2023 stats again. Out of all the events that happened at the Aquatic Center, and there were quite a few, our organization was responsible for the top 4 economic impact driving events that occurred at that. They were spread out approximately over about 15 days, and the total amount of man hours that takes to put on events of that nature totaled over 8,600 hours. Now, the people that are sitting with me today or tonight, those are the ones that are responsible for that. I'm on the pool deck, I'm the coach, okay? I'm not the one that's providing the behind the scenes activity. These are the unsung heroes, if you will. They are many of our officials. We cannot run, whether it's a Hokie meet, Virginia Tech meet, a high school meet. 99% of those officials on that pool deck are part of our program. And without officials, we don't have events. So all of that is to say that we currently are already operating in a public-private partnership, and we have been since 2010. We can't run the meets of the magnitude that we do, the 600 to 800 member meets. We cannot run that without a facility like the Aquatic Center. Okay, in turn, those meets don't run themselves. Without the manpower that H2Okie Aquatics brings to the table, those meets don't happen. We don't get those bids for those meets. This right here, very early on in my coaching career, I was told that this is a picture you never want to see, and that is a pool with still water. Still water means you're not generating revenue. In turn, this is what you want to see. If you happen to stop in and say hello last weekend, this is what you would have seen. Packed stands. We had athletes all over the place. We were running 2 courses, basically 2 meets at the same time. This is what you want to see at the Aquatic Center, and this is what H2Okie Aquatics does very, very well. So how did we get here this evening? How did we get to this part where we're asking for your assistance and approval of a ground lease for a dry land facility? As you all are very well aware, our community is one of the few in the state of Virginia that is continuing to grow every year. We utilize the facility, the lane space, in the peak hours of the Aquatic Center are already at max capacity. Our internal projections for our program, if not by next year, the year after, we will be over 300 swimmers within our program. And and that doesn't include, the unique swimmers. We're well over 350 kids that have come out and swum with us already this year, whether they tried it and it just didn't work with them, or they've tried it and they've moved on to a spring sport in hopes that they will be coming back. So Terry and I have spoken at length on you know, how are we going to handle this? Because this is not a question of if, it's a matter of when. And you know, it's not like we can add additional pool space. You know, there's 22 lanes over there, 18, you know, are offered to us to be able to use at any given time. That's, you know, we were trying to find ways that we can create more lane space. And on top of that, the sport of swimming has evolved. Strength training is a more prominent role in the day-to-day activities of swimmers of all levels, for that matter. So we, you know, really started looking. I was like, well, what equipment can we add on the pool deck that will service those needs? And it didn't take us very long to say there is no room on the pool deck for any more equipment, you know. So we said, okay, well, let's look outside. So we, you know, walked around the facility a little bit more. We looked at the sun deck as an option. But when it was all said and done, and we really looked at all the options, the best option that we had was a standalone structure that we could find a spot that would fit within the grounds of the aquatic center, that was not interruptive to anything on the day-to-day basis. You know, so we found a little chunk spot that we felt that's currently, you know, occupied by a dumpster, that this would be a great place for it. Logistically speaking, it made sense. You know, as our parents come and drop their kids off, now they only have to drop their kid off one time, as opposed to finding another exercise place scattered throughout the community that would meet some of our needs. And ultimately, it was the safety side. You know, we've got it nestled into a small corner that doesn't involve the kids crossing any busy streets. They're not walking through parking lots at night. They're only a few steps away from the main building that will allow us to utilize both spaces, you know, simultaneously. And, you know, really, this 27% increase in user capacity may not mean much to you, but as our numbers grow, that's the equivalent of adding 4 to 5 additional lanes in the pool that exists now. Now, we know that's not happening, but from the amount of kids that we can utilize and use that space for, it's the equivalent of adding 4 to 5 additional lanes that's in the pool now. And I'd like to just remind folks that what we're here tonight is we're not asking for the town of Christiansburg to pay for any of this. This is something that our program is fully on board with, you know, paying for this structure. And we know we're not asking for the town to pay any of their tax money. Through this process, you know, the ground lease, you know, we've been at this for almost 18 months, just from the conversations that led us to some mock drafts of a ground lease. It's been going back and forth for over a year. We finally got it to a point where we're here tonight. That also allowed us to, you know, hire the services of Balzer and Associates to help us through this process, to make sure that, you know, we were dotting all our I's, crossing all our T's, making sure the infrastructure was where it needed to be, and ultimately giving us a little bit of a rendition. If you've seen the Christiansburg Aquatic Center, you know that this shape is very familiar to that. We went through a couple different iterations, but we felt that this one was the one that would blend in and makes it really look like it was born there and it was built there with the original structure. As I mentioned, you know, we were already well under a great working public-private partnership today. By approving this ground lease, what that is saying is, you know, we've got, you know, our organization is renewing our commitment to the facility. I think we threw out some language in there that's a 25-year lease that, you know, we are committed. You know, we are committed to this town. We are committed to that facility. It does wonders. It's an amazing place. Secondly, you know, we are, you know, planning to continue, you know, since we've been here in 2010, you know, we evolved as the meets and the events that we were able to put on there have evolved. They've grown in size. We realized that some of the internal things, we didn't have enough of certain things to meet the needs of these events. So we as an organization bought additional bleachers that stay at the Aquatic Center. As we know, electronics and water don't jive too well together. They don't mix. Things break, they fail. You know, we've always stepped in, and, you know, we know that budgets are tight. Depending on the timing of budgets and when things broke, our organization stepped right in and replaced equipment that was necessary for us to keep these meets on the calendar. Collectively, since 2010, we've given over $60,000 in donations or, you know, just equipment that was needed to make the facility to continue to operate. Again, I want to remind you that, we're not asking for taxpayer dollars here. But what we are asking for is for you to understand and look at the very unique opportunity and the awesome asset that the Christiansburg Aquatic Center is. I've been coaching for over 30 years, 20 years as head coach here. I've been up and down the East Coast. I know what other facilities are. What we have here is still, 14 years later, one of the top 10 facilities on the East Coast. They are putting new pools online all the time. There's one in VMI. There's another one in Hampton, Virginia. I will tell you that it's the 20 years of coaching in Virginia. It's the relationships that we have built. It's the fantastic job that Terry has done managing that facility with the staff that she has, that all the folks that control the bids that we put in for, they know exactly what they're getting when we submit a bid. They've got a professional run, A-class, top-of-the-line facility, and we've got the manpower with the organization behind it to run it. So again, I want to thank all my parents for being here and support. We ask that you approve this ground lease so that we can continue doing what we do for this community, and I'm happy to take any questions.
I think Mr. Bishop has a couple of questions for you.
And I think was brought up earlier, nowhere in this lease agreement did I see a fee. How much are y'all going to be paying the town any amount? Or
well, it's something we certainly can discuss. I know, our board, for the last, over 12 months, we've sent the ground lease back and forth, and, lease or rent was never brought up. So we wanted to come here tonight and highlight, a lot of the things that we are doing already behind the scenes that make this facility as successful as it is. When I throw up that 8,600 hours of volunteer time, all of my parents are working 40-hour weeks, and then they come and add additional time. Without their support, there is no meat. Without no meat, there is no economic development. So I would ask that in consideration that you look at the labor that is involved, the labor-intense swim meets that they are, that is in consideration if we talk about rent.
Okay. And as far as I read again, as far as the building itself, I know there's a 30-year term. Say after year 31, Texas to pull out. The way I read this, you can take the building with you.
Well, first off, we are not Virginia Tech. We are a completely separate organization entity.
I'll backtrack that. I'll take that word back.
Sure.
All right. If y'all decide to pull out, you can take the building with you, the way I'm reading the lease.
I think there were clauses from the lawyers involved that were there to protect all interest. It is not our intention. If we build this, we don't want to move it. I can tell you that.
I think it's a leasehold improvement, a property improvement. It
Sure.
stays with the property regardless of what happens.
Again. But anyway, okay, and I apologize for calling you Virginia Tech. It's just, I'm used to Virginia Tech. I'm sorry.
Sure.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you, Mike.
Anyone else?
So you mentioned that it would be for 25 years, but in the paperwork, we have 30 years. So which one is that?
I may have misspoke. It may be 30. Like I said, it's gone back and forth a few times. And
And then I saw on the paperwork that we saw there was not a lot of information, and that's, to me, I appreciate the work that you have done over the years. I've seen it. I've been at the Aquatic Center time after time, seeing you working really hard along with everybody here. And cahoots to everybody that's here tonight, because you guys are phenomenal and definitely bring money to this area, which is amazing. But going along with that, the question about, having a lease with not a value, a monetary value with this, and I understand everybody's working and everything. I just would like to see something in there. Obviously, I know that you're working hard and everything, but I will kind of like to have a figure with that.
Sure.
And another question that I have, that when I'm looking at the paperwork, I'm seeing it as of today, 2024, and I'm seeing it as a nonprofit, which is great. It's amazing. I'm so glad you're a nonprofit right now, but nonprofits can obviously change, from nonprofits to for-profits. And I would really like to see if there was a way to, if we were to get in a lease contract with the hockey team, to see some type of wording in there that keeps it as a nonprofit. And if it ever changes to for-profit, that, that there is those terms of the lease agreement will definitely have to change.
Sure.
And that's just personally for me, because I just see it. This is, obviously, you're saying that there is no taxpayers involved in this, and I'm glad to hear that, because I'm very monetary concerned about everything with money. But I do, at the same time, is a property that is in town property. So I would like to see those terms in there. I will also, would like to know more information about how does it fit into, personal property. It seems like the lease is set up as a personal property instead of being real estate property. And I know the land, you're not asking for the land, you're asking for the building to put on the land, but in my head, a building is real estate. And it goes back to the whole thing, going back to for-profit, if it was ever gonna be a for-profit or not. I just have questions regarding this lease that, to me, I need, just like public hearing, I think is very adequate for people to know what we're doing, especially because this is for 30 years. I may not live for 30 years more, but I want to know what does this mean for other town council members in the future? What does it mean to have an agreement like this for other citizens, that come, and for them?
Thank you, Ms.
Two.
Hicks.
Sure.
Anyone else?
Where is this going on the property? That's the only thing I'm not clear of.
It would be basically the rear of the aquatic center, near where the HVAC systems are. There is, as we mentioned, a dumpster back in that area. So it basically would be going at the end of the bottom rear parking lot is where it would go.
Typically like drop-offs for the kids, for the tournaments and things like that, correct? Back there, where the kids get dropped off, typically for tournaments and things like that, correct?
Well,
Off of-
they get dropped off at the front of the main front entrance. Where this structure would be going is, if you go to the top of the
very
hill,
bottom,
the auxiliary parking lots that are above the facility, all the way down. Maybe I might get a rendition here. I thought there was a schematic in your packet. I guess it didn't
I
make
think
it.
it was in the packet
Yeah.
when I opened it.
Wow.
Okay, there it is. So down here.
At the very bottom.
Okay.
And then here, this would be the existing entrance that we would go, and it would just be a short walk here down to the building.
And from my understanding, the insurance will be covered by you guys, right?
Yeah.
Except the utilities and
Yeah,
everything.
all of that would be under our wraps.
Would you all oversee security and maintenance of the building as well? How would that relationship
You
work?
you know, I think if we went through as it's written, we would cover all those expenses. I think if we're looking into a rental situation, I think we would look at, for the rent, what services could we get for that. But, security cameras and all of that, or, again, we're at the infancy stage of this, because, if we don't get past here, obviously, we're not going to, put more money into the, the process of building it out. But, but we've thought about, what all do we need, security cameras, sidewalk potentially, all of that.
I'm encouraged by this. I can just tell you that I'm thrilled that you want to do this for the athletes that you guys train, and that all you're asking for is a small parcel of land to build the building on. To do this is pretty amazing to me.
Thank you.
Scott, we'll set that public hearing for the next council meeting, which I believe is to be the 26th.
Great.
I have one more question. What's the estimated value of this building that you will be thinking about building?
It's really hard to
Approx,
approximately. I think Bolzer gave us some rough estimates of maybe $300,000.
And is that why your guys are requesting like the 30-year lease? Because you're getting a loan for that amount, I imagine?
Essentially, I mean, we've done some preliminary financial work as an organization on what we think we can afford, and is this even realistic and possible. Obviously, stretching it out, makes it go a little bit further, but I think the type of structure that we showed here I think has a 50-year life expectancy, if you will, which we know they go way past that, but it might need a roof at year 35 or 40 or something. But I think that the 25 years or 30-year lease is just somewhat arbitrary, but not. It's like not such a quick turnover where we say, hey, your 15 years are up, you got to pull it up and move, but just something that would allow us to, like you said, stretch out perhaps financing, but also make it a stakeholder in the facility. I mean, we look at it honestly as with Virginia Tech's professional athletes that utilize the pool, that we really will have an Olympic training center here. I mean, there's nothing that we cannot accomplish with the dry land component and the in-water component. It'll be something really, really special.
I think Mr. Bishop told me that the proposed lease is for 30 years and an option to renew for another 20 at the end of that time.
Yeah.
So that's good. Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Just want to say thank you for your partnership with the Aquatic Center.
Thank
in
you.
town. We're really glad that you all come and swim and find this useful, and obviously there's a tremendous value in that partnership, so thank you.
Well, we value it very much, so thank you.
I want to stress the same thing. Now, once again, I apologize for calling you that other name, but it's just stuck in my brain. It's good to see that y'all are over there. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Virginia Tech is not a bad name. It's great.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming.
As we discussed earlier, we will not reach a decision on this tonight. We have had the discussion and presentation. So, as I said earlier, if those are interested, would like to leave, you certainly may. I'll ask you to, we do have a council meeting going on, so I would ask that you exit as quietly as possible. And I know with teenagers that's impossible, but thank you.
Who's that in the green shirt? In the green shirt. In the back. In the green shirt.
Mr. Stipes? I've noticed that you've gotten much grayer since you left council.
That's not a very nice comment. How are you?
Okay,
I'm sure you are.
so now that we have
You want to
these
sit here for tonight?
introductions and presentations, we will move into citizens' comments, and as we always do, we ask that you address the mic, come to the podium, name and address your comments to the chairman, and limit yourself to 3 minutes. Is there anyone here that would like to address council?
Good evening. My name is Bob Beard. I live here in Christiansburg. Mayor, Town Council, thank you for letting me speak tonight. I know it's budget season, and we're going through budgets for school board and board of supervisors, and and my first question is, what isn't taxed? We're going. The board of supervisors wants to raise our taxes by 7%. Okay, they want to give employees a 5% payroll across the board. So now we got to look at what's happening here on Town Council. We haven't really started doing a deep dive yet, but inflation is killing all of us. When we look at Biden's new budget, it's $7.5 trillion. 2.5 trillion of that is additional debt. We're already at $34 trillion in debt. Who's going to pay for this debt? What gives the dollar value? What's going to happen? We keep printing more and more money. The answer is more and more inflation. We can't forget the ADP raised our power bills by 11% just to power our homes. Inflation's grown by 17% since Biden has taken office. We've got more and more illegals coming into our country, going to take jobs. Over 50% of our population is living paycheck to paycheck. So what are we going to do? We also have a record number of students now qualify for meal assistance at MCPS. So I think we need to really do some homework and really dig deep and not to spend money that we don't have. You know, here's a famous quote from Ronald Reagan. Government always finds a need for whatever money it gets. And I'm asking you guys to hold on to that money and not to be giving it to nonprofits and to everybody else. And, you know, the taxpayers of this county, this township needs that money because the lack of money is just simply means a loss of freedom. The results of taxation inflation is a loss of freedom. Every day we all are working serfs to, or slaves to the tyranny of big government, local, state, or federal. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Chris Waltz, 1370 Ruby Street. I think I heard right that there was no discussion of any money in a lease. I mean, generally, if I go to lease a car, it says at the bottom of the paperwork how much I'm paying a month for the car. This seems a lot less like a lease, and the town is basically ceding their property to somebody else for a period of 30 years, unless there is some monetary value that, because it's not in the lease. And he seemed to not say anything, that it hadn't even been discussed. So I guess my question would be is, if you're going to do a lease, then have it a lease and there will be money involved. If not, call it what it is. You're ceding the town's property for 30 years. Why not sell it? And I would encourage everyone to watch the budget work session, because y'all look like y'all are ready to spend money like drunken sailors on shore leave. You know, shifting money from one pot to the other. I see tax increases in our future, as much as you all say that there aren't, other than the mayor, and I thank him for that, saying that he felt that we got a good deal for 14 cents. I'd say some citizens would disagree, but at the end of the meeting, he said that if need be, for the services you provide, you should raise taxes. I
Not
think
in
you
this
should cut
current
some of your
budget.
spending. Huh?
Not in this current budget.
Currently.
It is not in this current budget.
It's not finalized yet. But anyway.
Oh, I'm not going to argue with him saying, hell, can't get through to him. Okay, thank you.
But,
Anything else?
Just again, I mean, just call it what it is. You're giving away land for 30 years. And it may be for a good cause, but it's still giving away land.
Well, I think the fact there is we continue to own the land. We're not going to give it away. We're going to own the land, and the building on it
Okay,
is ours.
borrow it. Let somebody borrow it. But either way, and I looked up their financials while this was going on, and they spend over half of the money they take in every year in salaries, which I know in the military that wouldn't have been allowed to be on the giving campaign that we had every year. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Anyone else? Hearing no one, I will close the citizens' comments. Any committee reports? Street committee, anybody met this week?
No.
Nope.
Well, we had one, but nothing to bring up.
Nothing? Okay.
Nothing to bring up.
All righty. Any other committees that have met? Committees in town? All right.
We did meet the other day, Central Business, that we're supposed to be working on another meeting very soon, especially because there is a lot of things on the agenda for that. But just thinking about, how to come up with ideas or how to fix the gateways of the town, and maybe to have some participation from businesses, not just small but big too, to take some pride on some of the entrances to the town.
Okay. Anyone else? Thank you. We'll move to discussion and action by mayor and council. We have a conditional use permit request by Roger Woody, registered agent for RWW 36 LLC, property owner, and Denise E. LaCour, managing director, Denstock LLC, applicant to amend a previously approved planned housing development, the Verge Apartments, from 209 multifamily units residential dwelling to 206 residential dwelling units, and to change the proposed layout on approximately 18.82 acres of land. Property is designated as mixed use with buffer, residential and business, on the future land use map of the 2013 Christiansburg Comprehensive Plan. Public hearing was held February 27th, 2024, and Planning Commission voted to approve this, or recommended approval of this, 4-0, and 2 were absent.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion, questions?
This was the, oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
Wasn't this the plan that was over there by the middle school? Or is this the other one?
No, it's
Where is this
Commonwealth Assisted Living, out around that area. It's out off North Franklin Street.
Oh, okay, got it. Never mind.
Madam Clerk?
Councilman Bishop,
Aye.
Councilwoman Bowman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hicks,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hockett,
Aye.
Councilman Jenkins,
Aye.
Councilman Wilson,
Aye.
That is 6-0, thank you. Right-of-way vacation request by Denstock LLC for the vacation of an unimproved .047 acre portion of the easternmost end of Farmview Road Northeast. Public hearing was held on February 27th, 2024.
Make a motion, we approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Madam Clerk?
Councilman Bishop,
Aye.
Councilwoman Bowman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hicks,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hockett,
Aye.
Councilman Jenkins,
Aye.
Councilman Wilson,
Aye.
That is 6-0. We have a code amendment request by Joe Simmons, applicant, and Jack Martin, registered agent, to amend the Christiansburg Town Code, Chapter 42, Section 42-9, lighting and minimum off-street parking, specific requirements by use. The request is to include additional language to the retail store and personal service establishment and banks, minimum off-street parking space requirement to exclude non-public areas such as stock rooms and storage areas from the overall minimum parking calculation for the building. Public hearing was held on February 27th.
Make a motion, we approve.
Second.
Okay. Got a motion and a second?
I have a couple of questions about this one. I know that it makes sense, and I am going to go for it. On the other hand, was there a charge for this, especially since it was something that is really going to benefit more than one building, but many other ones in the future?
There is a code amendment fee of $500, and that is for someone to bring their own code amendment through the public hearing process. So that is what the fee is. And you are correct, yes, it would apply to all businesses that are similar, retail businesses, personal service establishments, beauty salons, those sorts of things across town. But yes, to apply, to change the code, there is a fee of $500.
Can we, and as a council, in town council over here, if we ever were to actually not ask for that payment, we can waive that payment, correct? Or that charge?
You can consider code amendments on your own if you'd like.
When I was reading this code section after the last time that I didn't really realize what it meant, I was looking at it a lot and just thinking about it, that it really so makes sense as far as changing this ordinance. And I just see it, something like this, like I would have liked to be brought to town council even, to see if there was a way that we could not take payment for something like this. And that would be my personal opinion as far as this goes. I just think when it benefits so many other businesses and things like that, I think, sometimes great ideas is what makes great things happen. So that would be my comment about that one. And the other one was, did this have to go to planning commission? Probably didn't.
Yes.
Did it? Okay. Just, thank you.
Okay. Do we have a motion and a second? I believe
Yeah.
we do.
Mhm.
Madam Clerk, any other questions? I'm sorry, Madam Clerk?
Councilman Bishop,
Aye.
Councilwoman Bowman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hicks,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hockett,
Aye.
Councilman Jenkins,
Aye.
Councilman Wilson,
Aye.
That is 6-0, thank you. We have a conditional use permit request by Rock Step Christiansburg LLC property owner to allow Carnival April 28, 2024 through May 12, 2024 property located at 782 New River Road Northwest, which is the Uptown Mall area. Zone B3 General Business. Proposed time includes setup and operation of the carnival. Property is designated business, commercial, and future land use map. The 2013 comprehensive plan. Public hearing was held on February 27th, 2024. And there has been a change to one of the amendments that was posted by the Planning Commission.
Correct. There is a desire by staff to have additional flexibility by Chief Ramsey in order to meet the needs, the staffing needs that are available during the time of Carnival. And so this would allow the PD to either meet the two during the weekday officers that are listed in the condition, or the 4 in the weeknight, or weekend night, excuse me, or to match the what is anticipated as the demand. If the personnel, if there is a strain in personnel, or if they're not available. So basically this wording talks to that and says that the wording that would be struck out, which is what was in last year's approval, is above. And what is proposed would be that the carnival shall further be required to staff 4 Christiansburg police officers during weekend peak hours as availability is determined by the police chief. In the case of heavier attendance than expected or in response to other identified safety concerns, additional officers may be added at the discretion of the town manager or police chief. And then, as was in the condition last year, the carnival shall be responsible for paying the overtime rate for each officer.
Has the carnival seen this, the people from the carnival?
I sent it earlier today.
Okay, I have not had a chance to review this because I've been out of the office all day, so this is new to me.
Okay.
I
We need
think
somebody
I've
to-
had a chance to read this before.
Should we table this so that?
No, we don't, I don't think we have time.
don't.
Yeah.
Well,
I would like to make a motion to approve the item under no changes from last year, but that would be me. Just keep the same agreement that we had last year.
Without the additional wording we read tonight.
Mhm.
Chief Ramsey, you got a comment on that? Well, wait, let me get a second to that part of the motion,
Which part?
and then we'll decide. She's asking for it with no changes in order to not add this amendment that Chief Ramsey
I'll
has
give a
suggested.
second so we can go into discussion.
You got a second? Okay. Now discussion. Chris, do you want to,
I believe we have a downtown event scheduled one of the weekends of here as well, and that's gonna create a little bit of a staffing strain. So we may have to consider shopping out. If we're gonna be contractually required to have 4 every weekend night, we may have to consider shopping that out to some of the other jurisdictions as well, and offering them the opportunity to fill some of those roles. Because I'm not, as council's aware, we've got quite a few people on extended leave, that kind of thing, during that time period, so we're gonna be at a peak trying to staff these events. So that was the reason for the change. I don't anticipate needing to add additional staff to it. I don't think we would go above 4 unless something really unforeseen happened. But there is potential during that one weekend that we're gonna be pushed to the limit on covering all the events.
So,
we have a motion and a second with, to approve without this change. Madam Clerk?
Councilman Bishop,
Aye.
Councilwoman Bettman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hicks.
aye.
Councilwoman Hockett,
Aye.
Councilman Jenkins,
Aye.
Councilman Wilson.
Aye.
Okay, that passes 6-0, so there you go.
Thank you.
Look forward to you coming next month.
My kids are always excited about
We
seeing
have
this.
we have a street closure request by NRV Cares for Hickok Street from West Main Street Commerce Street Northwest from 1:30 to 7:30 on April the 11th, 2024, for the Spring Family Fun Festival.
Make a motion we approve?
Second.
A motion and a second. Questions? Madam Clerk? Oh,
I didn't know if they had something.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're here,
You
we're
didn't-
here.
you
If you have
didn't
any
look up.
questions. If you have any
No, I'm
questions.
sorry. Okay. I don't think we have any questions. It's
Well,
not
I
the first
just
time
wanted-
you've ever done this.
Right,
Right,
we
we
know.
know.
But I did, I'm Kelly Edmondson from Montgomery County Department of Social Services. On a side note, I do want to thank Logan and the rescue squad because my office had a tragedy on Thursday where, a employee had a heart attack and we were able to respond in-house with the health department, but Logan and the rescue squad was phenomenal. So I just wanted to say that since we were here. And thank you, and please pass that information along.
Thank you.
But then too, we wanted to make sure that you all are aware of the Family Fun Festival, and we're excited about this event this year. Again, hopefully we will have nicer weather than we had last year. But we were the first community to have this event, and now other communities have taken it on, Radford, Pulaski, and even Giles. So we were the first ones to make this available to the community. So we want to thank you all for allowing us to have it at downtown Christiansburg.
Thank you. Any comments or questions?
From my understanding, it's just Hickok Street, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Madam Clerk?
Councilman Bishop. Councilwoman Bowman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hicks.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hockett.
Aye.
Councilman Jenkins.
Aye.
Councilman Wilson.
Aye.
There's 6-0.
Thank you
Hickok,
all.
you're very welcome.
Thank you.
Hickok Street drainage improvements. Mike?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We opened bids on February 5th for the Hickok Street Drainage Improvements Project. We had 3 bids, and the lowest bidder, unfortunately, was over our budget for the project. This project is funded through VDOT. We've got approximately $1.4 million in a grant, in revenue sharing grant from VDOT. And we've requested additional funds from VDOT at this time. We should have more information on that request probably in April or May. But at this point, the budget shortfall was discussed at the Water Waste Committee meeting on February 26th. It's my understanding, I wasn't present for it, but it was discussed at the budget workshop on March 4th. And from those 2 meetings, it's staff's understanding that there's a desire to move this project forward. So what we're requesting is a commitment to begin the project this year with the current budget allocation and fully fund the remainder of the project in its entirety for fiscal year 2024-25, less any additional VDOT grants that we may receive for the project. So,
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any
I do have a question about this.
discussion or questions?
Can you tell us the total figure of what the additional cost is gonna be for the town? Was it the one?
we need approximately $2.4 million to be funded in the next fiscal budgeting cycle.
And does Valerie know how we're supposed to find this money? Is
I
it,
was working on it.
okay. So is it
We haven't
gonna,
worked into the budget at this point. We're still looking to.
The 2.4 is above and beyond?
The 2.4, yes, ma'am, is above what we currently have allocated for this project. We have enough money to start the project in this fiscal year, but we would have to fund the additional amount in the next fiscal budgeting cycle. So, and that's the request. Typically, we do not do this, but if this project goes out to bid, it will not be less money when it comes back in. It will come back in higher. That's just the nature of bidding projects like this.
can we get a loan for this, Valerie?
Pardon me?
Can we get a loan for this?
I don't know that we want to go that route, but I think we've worked out some things. We're getting closer to the budget working out and keeping this project in there and being able to fund it. The main reason that kind of had Mike here is that under his current budget, he cannot go into a contract to approve this without the appropriation of funds or a budget for it, which the current budget isn't big enough for. So the best way to do that would be to have you, pass a motion to accept moving forward with the project, that you would fully fund it in '25, because he does not have the funding currently in '24. But I think we've got it pretty well close to worked out in the budget. We're still pushing numbers around, but we're almost there, so, no, I don't think we need to take out debt.
When will we hear back from VDOT's revenue sharing grant program? Do you know?
My understanding would probably be in April or May. Worst case scenario is we don't get any additional funding.
Right.
The best case scenario is I anticipate we could see around maybe another $1 million, or anywhere in between 0 and $1 million. So it's a request. VDOT has these other revenue sharing projects. If there's a savings on a project somewhere else, then it goes into a bucket for this type of scenario. So we've made the request. They asked for additional information to support, well, what specifically was the nature of the overreach. And so we've got and the letter was in your packet, and I think it does a very good job of explaining the nature of the bid and the contractor's concerns. So we've passed that on to VDOT, so we're just waiting for an answer at this point.
So in the end, it could be less than the 2.4.
I know some of the, it was discussed during the work session that we'll put some of the other things on hold until we're able to do this one first. But my question to you is there any way under this project to cut, not to cut corners, but to do one thing at a time and maybe not do the whole project, maybe just, I don't know what, how to put it into paper, but just to make it where we don't have to do the whole project at one point.
You would have to go back and basically redesign the project to fit the budget we have. And that would incur additional delays in doing the work. We're ready to go now. All the easements are in place. We bid it. We've got a responsible bidder. But could that be done? I think ultimately it could be done, but you would probably end up paying more money in the long run once you start parsing it out and redesigning it.
This thing's kind of like the VDOT widening of 114. It's been in the plan for about, we've been working on this thing for what, 3 or 4 years, 5?
It's been,
At least,
it was, I started in September 2019, and it started before I got here, so.
So the motion on the floor is to commit to start the project.
Correct.
And fund it out of 2025 budget.
Yes.
Is that clear? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Bishop,
Aye.
Councilwoman Bowman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hicks,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hockett,
Aye.
Councilman Jenkins,
Aye.
Councilman Wilson.
Aye.
That's 6-0.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. So we have a discussion of the standing town council work sessions date. Talk about setting a semi-permanent work session every month. I think Ms. Hockett and Mr. Jenkins brought that forward.
Yes. I think everybody's familiar with my thoughts behind us scheduling a work session, just having some dedicated time each month where we can get together, have discussions, cancel if we don't need it, but at least a time for us to collaborate, coordinate, and talk about things similar to how we do with the budget. So I'd really like to see that, especially since we just received raises this year. I think it's worth spending that extra time. And I would like to see us commit to a standing date each month so that we can have that going forward, and obviously, like I said, canceling if we have no items for the agenda.
How's the third Tuesday of each month starting at 6:30 sound?
Sounds good to me. Not good to Kim?
I have another meeting on Tuesdays.
You what?
I have a meeting that night.
Every Tuesday at 6:30? Every third Tuesday
Every
at
third,
6:30?
yeah.
Okay.
About
The
first
last 20
Tuesday.
years.
I don't think that, I think it's so hard to even, to maneuver with our schedules as it is right now, and we're making big sacrifices. I do think that obviously I'm all for meetings when they are needed. And, I mean, we just met last week and we just made that meeting up just within the last week and a half ago. But, and I know that there will be a lot more meetings happening at the beginning of the year because of budget and changes on the budget, but I do think that for me, it's a big commitment, and right now my commitment is, twice a month, and then I do other things with the agency, and aging requires many hours out of this, and central business, and, everything else that we have to do with town council. And for me, right now, I appreciate you wanting to talk about other things and stuff, but at this moment, I think we should just, when they're needed, we'll discuss those items.
Do you need a motion for this?
I do.
I'd like to make a motion that we set a standing town council work session.
I'll second.
Okay. And we'll work on the date later, huh?
For the first Tuesday of every month. I'm fine with the first Tuesday.
Yeah, and I agree. Let's just set a date, and if we don't have anything to discuss, we can always cancel the meeting. However, for me to calendar and know that there is a date that's set is way more efficient for me than the willy-nilly, let's just decide we need to discuss stuff.
So within this motion, are you suggesting the first Tuesday of each month at 6:30?
Yes.
I absolutely think that, I don't mind the meetings at all, but I think we need to make it something that's good for everybody. Some of us are involved in multiple other things and cannot keep that commitment, so it wouldn't be good for me. I need to look at my calendar and see what's available. Some of us are busier than others and have more commitments, but I would like to do it, but it needs to be convenient.
Is there a date that's convenient for you?
I need to look at my calendar.
I as well.
All right.
So at this point, we're gonna strike that first Tuesday of each month, and go on with to work on setting a standard,
Yes.
a standing council work session during the month.
So will we revisit this next council meeting to set a date?
But we're gonna meet before that. So anyway, I'm not done yet. Okay, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Bishop,
Uh,
Councilwoman Bowman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hicks,
I'm gonna get all my answers.
All right. Thank you. Next.
Councilwoman Hockett,
Aye.
Councilman Jenkins.
Aye.
Councilman Wilson.
Aye.
That is 6-0. Thank you. We have a discussion of the use, jumped up one. Blacksburg, Christiansburg, Montgomery County Tourism Office, and I would say this. I think that it is time that we sever with the tourism office. I've not been pleased with the last year's worth of operations, not only with the promises they made, and I also admitted in the work session that was probably the worst vote I've made in the last several years as mayor, is to fund them for another year. We're not getting our money's worth, so that's my stance. Tim?
So motion to give notice effective March 13th, 2024, that we are no longer going to defund them at the end of our contract.
Second.
Motion in a couple of seconds. Any discussion? Hearing
I
none.
think, being, looking at this for a long time and looking at what we're trying to get back from the money that's spent into this, and I do think that we can definitely use the helping bring more people to the town and obviously do a lot more with that, so
Thank you.
I think it's great.
Any other comments or questions? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Bishop,
Aye.
Councilwoman Bowman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hicks,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hockett,
Aye.
Councilman Jenkins,
Aye.
Councilman Wilson,
Aye.
That is 6-0. Use of MLS for sale of an approximately 5.8 acre property located at southeastern intersection Pepper Ferry Road, northwest and Booker T. Washington Parkway. Ms. Hicks, I think you wanted that on the agenda?
Yes, I would really like to make a motion actually to even, consider looking into putting this into, a commercial, real estate agent, possibly just not here, but maybe hopefully from out of town, so it doesn't look very, much so that we're picking size or something like that. But I do think it's important, even if it's just to market with a broker, especially because if we want top money for this piece of property, which I think is worth a lot
Can
of
you
money.
Sorry, can you tell us what the motion is, and then, because I.
That to put this listing into an MLS system.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Now let's
Discussion.
talk about it.
Okay,
Because
so-
I'm not against what you're suggesting. But I think we need to find what's the right system to use if we're not going to, and MLS is a broad term for the multiple ways that the real
Yeah.
estate world markets.
Well, you want to have exposure online, and you want to have national exposure. And I can tell you from companies, if you want companies to come here, they're not going to come and use a local realtor. I mean, they may, but the chances are that they are not going to know that there is a piece of land in Christiansburg, Virginia, by driving around Christiansburg. And so I do think that if you have that exposure, you'll definitely probably get a lot more money than you're requesting. And remember, the realtor, even in this, we can make it where, we will not be paying realtor fees for this or a listing fee for
And
this.
And with that said, sorry, Mayor, but 4 or 5 months ago, I don't remember how long ago it was, you guys followed the guidance we gave you initially. And so I'm making sure it's a matter of public record that we're shifting on you, that this wasn't something that you guys didn't follow. You did exactly what we asked you to do initially.
You showed the property several times, I think, haven't you?
So we're shifting gears so that the public knows that this is a council thing, not a town management thing.
So in fairness, as we on council know, we have been in negotiation with a company that has an interest in it. And I think in all fairness to them, we need to give them a notice of 30 days or 60 days out, if we haven't finalized anything with them, that we will list it. But I don't think we just need to pull the rug out from under their feet. And that's what I'm going to request, is a closed session, work session next week, to discuss the sale of this property.
I think they can watch the video, and I think, nothing is being signed from the town saying that we're not going to allow this. And if they're really serious, they will definitely change the things that we asked from the beginning, and they haven't. So I don't think that, I think that this is a negotiating tool, and I will use it. As a realtor, I use this all the time, and so
Okay.
it's better for you to promote what you have, because if you don't promote what you have, you don't, I think it's very important to have that, so
Okay.
I will definitely not weigh on
All right,
that.
so we have a motion and a second, and we've had some discussion to consider, I think, within a certain period of time, listing with a proper listing agency. We've got a contract, and we've got some stuff that have come in that we need to discuss. So, I mean, I'm
And
not
we
going to
still
pull
have
the
another
rug.
parcel of land there. So, I mean, we've only been made an offer on
2.7 acres.
on one parcel of the land. So regardless, we still, even if we decide to go with that one contract, we still have more land
Yeah.
that's out there available for sale.
I think even the terms were not,
Are we
you know,
clear?
we made a motion that we're going to put this on an online service.
Yes, we did.
And so, we need to vote on it.
Was there a specific time listed on that? Is it within 30 days or whatever?
I will
mean,
say
It might be easier
ASAP,
to
and that
market
would
5
be for
acres
me.
than 2.4.
I would just say ASAP. Because we need the
Alright.
money, and obviously, we have other projects to do.
Okay.
There is a procurement process that we go through to procure a realtor, so maybe the motion is that we go through the procurement process to obtain a commercial realtor.
There you go, whatever he said.
Well, but let me back that up to you, Reed. We're not, I mean, the suggestion was we list it with at one point, a specific broker not here in the area. So if you don't, if you list it through, was it, Loot.com or Lock, whatever, you know, there's a fee to do that.
No, I will.
That's all right, I'm talking. If there's a fee to do that, I mean, we pay it, and we're not locked into a particular realtor. That's saying that anybody in Bangor, Maine that sees this thing and wants to come to Christiansburg, they can contact through us. Is that correct? Or do we have to have a listing agent?
You do not have to have a listing agent. You can simply list on a page or a listing, a real estate listing page. I would want clarification of specifically where you would want it listed, though, because
There is 100 websites that once as a realtor, that's why you pay so many fees to it, to belong to be a part of all of this. Once you put those listings in there, they become nationally advertised over 100 websites. And so that's why I say if you use a commercial realtor, that it will give you the opportunities, and they are really paying for those services. I think that we're not doing anything, but it's not gonna cost the town any more money to advertise it with a realtor. The realtor has those fees, they make a living out of that, and I think if you advertise it with a realtor that is a commercial realtor and hopefully out of town, then you will have the chances, it will be completely out in the public for everybody to see in other states, anywhere in the world, so.
I would expect a realtor would expect a commission on the sale, I would think.
No, the buyer pays a commission on the seller.
If we were to list it, I would think you would have to open it to people in town as well as out of town, just because of Virginia procurement law. I don't think you can disqualify people from in town from being eligible.
Can you,
I think if we were listing it, we'd list it on the state website, and so you potentially could get prospects from, or bidders from all over the state, including local bidders.
Can we get clarification what the motion is, or what's it going to be? I am, well, I'm still
I know.
confused. Yes.
my motion will change into, listing this piece of property online with a broker, a commercial broker, and then go through the procurement process.
We have to go through the procurement process first, I think, before we can list it with a broker.
Well, that's what you're gonna be requesting under the procurement, correct?
But you said list it with a broker and then go through the procurement steps. We can't do both.
Well, you will make the request under the procurement that you will want a broker for that.
All
So
right,
that
we
would
have
be
a
part of the
motion. Tim, you still
procurement.
second that one?
Yes, sir.
Madam Clerk?
Councilman Bishop,
Uh,
Councilwoman Bowman,
Aye.
I think I know where we're going.
Councilwoman Hicks,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hockett,
Aye.
Councilman Jenkins.
Aye.
Councilman Wilson.
Aye.
Mr. Wingfield and Mr. Broughton and myself will dig to the bottom of this thing and then come up with the best way to do it. Thank you. Discussion Muir Valley Aquatics, so we're not doing that, we tabled it, very good. All right, staff reports.
I guess just in regards to the H2O Hokies list, lease, there was a drawing included in it in the packet. If you notice, it showed utility lines, I believe, tying into the town aquatic center, and I've told them I didn't think that would be acceptable. I'd want individual lines because, like I said, I wouldn't want them tying into our facility. I did bring up compensation in term and things like ownership of the building at the end of the term or demo of the building at the end of the term, because those were concerns to me. So I did bring those type things up. They did want to just bring it to you for council for consideration. I guess kind of basically because of the partnership that we have and the fact that they do bring so many meats to us, and the fact that they are so widely supported in the community. So I think that's why they wanted to come to you as they drafted it, because that is, it was in the folder as they drafted it. Like I say, it's not with any of my edits or, I guess, suggestions or discussion with them. So that's really all I've got.
I would really like to see if there is some of that wording, looked into, maybe would read and things like that about, I do want some wording regarding the nonprofit status, if he was ever gonna change, or, you know, if there is any way to put a value into that, you know, the rental of the space. It was mentioned over here, the people that do run the meets, obviously, they do benefit from this as well. They make money out of this, so, you know, I'm not against the Hokies, because I think they're wonderful. I have been at their meets, and I think they do bring a lot of people to the town, so I'm definitely not against them at all. I think it's a great use of the space as well. So as far as that, I am not against, but I do want to find out if there is any other wording that we can put into there. Because 30 years is a long time.
We have a public hearing. Hopefully, we're going to set a public hearing for the next council meeting. We'll have time to hear it, and then we'll have another 2 weeks.
I'll set it as early as I can with legal advertisements.
Do what?
With legal advertisements.
You gotta
Okay.
wait for that.
All right. Mr. Wingfield, anything else?
That's all I have.
Are we going to set a public hearing for this thing or not?
Yes, we can. Like I say, we'll set it.
Thank you. Mr. Broughton,
Nothing to report, thank you.
any other staff? Council reports, I would like to request a closed work session next week, and we'll decide the night and the time to discuss the sale of property. Do I have a motion to do that?
Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. I would like to set a work session that would has to be, to advertise it properly. Now, the last work session we had was on a Monday night. Is a Monday night a decent night? If we have it this coming Monday?
I would prefer not, but, well, no, I
Okay.
can do Monday. Monday or
Well, I
Monday's
can't.
fine.
Hell, never
Yeah,
mind.
Monday's fine.
I got a meeting. If everybody else is gonna have meetings, I've got one too that I need to go to, so.
Yeah, okay.
So you wanna go Wednesday?
No, Monday's fine.
Well, it's just it. I can't do Monday.
Oh, you just said Monday.
I
Okay,
did
so
until I
Wednesday's
realized
fine.
I have a
Yes.
meeting.
Yes, sir, Wednesday's fine.
Wednesday sounds great.
Wednesday?
It depends what time.
Wednesday?
I have to look at my calendar.
Wednesday.
It's after 5, it's fine with me.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's 6:30,
That would work
Wednesday,
for me.
whatever that is,
20th.
19th, 20th? 20th.
Can you specify what does that mean, what you just said? The sale of property, which property are you talking about? And then why is it a closed session, if you can tell me?
Because we're talking, it's a property that we have been discussed that you wanted to list on MLS. We have a contract for the purchase of it. I want council to review it to see. So, and it is closed session because the sale of properties we discuss under closed session.
I understand that now,
Okay.
so I didn't know that you were talking about that one. And, well, I was trying to find out, you didn't specify, do you?
Well, I think we were talking about the MLS property beforehand, and I said, I'm going to request a work session on this property. So I brought it down in here and requested it.
No, I didn't hear that part.
6:30.
So you do have a contract, is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that we're gonna discuss a contract that we have seen. Okay, and go from there. So the motion, is there a motion and a second?
Yes.
Okay. Madam Clerk?
Councilman Bishop?
Aye.
Councilwoman Bowman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hicks?
Aye, but do we have a day for the, do we have a day for the meeting?
Or nothing. Yes, we do. It's the 5th. It's the
Wednesday.
20th
Fifth?
of March, 6:30,
20th.
here.
Councilwoman Hockett?
Aye.
Councilman Jenkins?
Aye.
Councilman Wilson?
Aye.
I think that's 6-0. Thank you. Mr. Bishop?
No reports?
No reports.
No, sir.
Ms. Hicks?
No reports.
I do want to find out what's the update regarding the banner for the veterans.
I've talked to Public Works. Jim, is it ordered?
Yeah, we've got it ordered and they're supposed to send us approved by the end of the week.
Okay.
We'll send it up to you.
So, yeah, Jim and I worked on that, and Randy and I worked on it Monday.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Randy.
Ms. Hockett?
Nothing to report.
Mr. Wilson?
Nothing to report, sir.
Mr. Jenkins?
Nothing, sir.
Ms. Bowman?
No, but I do want to say I'm looking forward to sitting down with Amanda Hubert tomorrow. Herbert, is it Herbert? Or
Hebert.
Hubert?
Hebert.
Hebert, thank
Hebert,
you. I'm
yeah.
glad I asked.
Okay.
I hate to get people's names wrong, but I'm really looking forward to sitting down with her and seeing more of what she's doing and
Yeah,
learning about
I think
how
that's
she's.
a better move than try to just bring it out in central business. I think, get you one-on-one, I think it'd be very interesting for you. Any other business to come before council? If not, Ellie and the DCI group and Derek, we appreciate you coming out. Brad, good to see you. We're adjourned.